Hi, this is Scott Garibay. Excuse me. And today we're going to talk about American politics, and we're going to talk about Tim Walz, and we're going to talk about his Harvester International Scout vintage SUV, sports utility vehicle, and how this is changing my mind about Tim Walz, but not Kamala Harris. So let's jump into it. So first of all, let me just summarize my take on Tim Walz. So this is what I've been saying, right, to this point, and it is changing, right? So I'm like, okay, Kamala Harris, you want to beat Donald Trump, right? So you need to pick, somebody from Pennsylvania so that you'll get the electoral votes, or you need to pick, Matthew McConaughey so that people will actually care about Kamala Harris. What you don't need to do is pick a no-name governor from a state I can't spell. Right? Some heartland state, who knows where he's governor of, right? Like, I guess you could Google it if you cared, right? Like Tim Walz is a complete schlub. He is not bringing anyone to the ticket. I was wrong. I really felt that Tim Walz was a worthless sack of meat and really had no business in politics and was not doing anything for Kamala Harris. I was wrong. So why was I wrong? So let's get into it. All right. So first of all, if you go on Tim Walz's YouTube site, you will find a video right there for him covering his Harvester International Scout. All right. He is actually he is doing the thing, right? And so what is a Harvester International Scout? So it's an old, 1970s sports utility vehicle, and he has one. And it was specifically built by Harvester International. Who the heck is that? That's not Ford or Chevy, right? They made tractors. These guys made tractors, and they made one SUV called the Harvester, called the Scout, and it's a Harvester International Scout. Now, I love American muscle. I love American steel. And this thing is a banger of a awesome, beautiful example of American muscle. This is an American muscle car, right? Harvester International. It's a Scout. It's like, what if OJ's white, Bronco was mint green, the same color as ice cream, and was driven by a farmer? That's what it is, right? And it is gorgeous. So they do a video with Tim Walz, and he's like, hey, this is my Harvester International Scout, right? And he goes over and he opens up the door, and he opens up the door in the way that Han Solo opened up the Millennium Falcon, right? Like grabbing the handle at exactly the right point, opening that sucker up, knowing exactly where the hood lever is, right? And he's like, this is my vintage SUV, and I've been restoring it, and one of the last things I'm working on is the cruise control, and so I need to rework the cruise control. And you're like, cruise control on this super ancient vehicle? Tell me more. And so Tim Walz really shows that he knows how to work on the vehicle. He loves American steel. He loves American muscle, and it's really incredibly endearing. And it's like, I'm not a worthless sack of meat, right? And when you see this thing, first of all, it's just so endearing to see Tim Walz. And he's so down to earth and so like, hey, it's just you and me, let's get a beer, right? Like, just very real, very down to earth. And he's like, and this is my restored vintage American muscle car, right? And you're like, very cool, right? And then you think about Kamala Harris, and you're like, she don't even know the name of any car she's ever driven in, of any car she's ever been driven in. Let alone, like, the idea she's ever put a key in a vehicle seems ludicrous. This is exactly the woman who's been chauffeured everywhere she's ever been and does not know the price of milk, right? Tim Walz is like, I repaired this car, I put my key in it, I drove it and filled it with gas, and I got the milk before I went home, right? And Kamala Harris hasn't done that, because why would she bring milk home to anybody? There ain't nobody to bring milk home to. Right? Yeah, exactly. Right? So it's astounding, right? And so I was blown away by this extremely effective ad by Tim Walz. And honestly, I would love to have Tim Walz as my president. But I do not want Kamala Harris. And here's another thing I don't want. I don't want to get put into a position where I am desperately hoping that the vice president becomes president and that the president is no longer able to serve as president. I don't want to be in that position, right? I'm like, if Kamala Harris gets elected, I'm like, oh, how close are we to Tim Walz being the president? What has to happen? Or like, it's like, I don't want to be hoping for that situation. That's not good. That's not appropriate, right? Oh man. And this is where the parties have put us, right? Like, I would love to see Tim Walz. Tim Walz is a real guy. I didn't know that before this ad. I know it now. And the reason why is I know cars, right? I know cars. And I know this guy is not faking this, right? Because he wouldn't, like, I watched, here's how I know. Here's how I know. Listen up. Kevin Hart, right? They bring him on Complex and they're like, hey, we're going to pick out some sneakers with you, buddy. And you show us the kind of sneakers you like, because you're a sneakerhead and everybody on this show is a sneakerhead. And Kevin Hart's like, yep, I'm a sneakerhead. I care a lot about sneakers, right? So they come in and like, they show him an array, a wall, right, of Air Jordan 1s. And they're like, what's the colorway you like? And he goes, colorways, yeah, colorways. And you could tell he doesn't know what a colorway is. Right? And it's all BS, right? He don't know nothing about sneakers. Kevin Hart don't care about sneakers, right? He got invited on the show because he's a celebrity. And he should have been honest. He should have been saying, hey, I don't know nothing about sneakers, but here on Complex, you guys do. Right? And then that guy could have said, hey, this is the shoe that Eminem wears. This is the shoe that Christina Aguilera wears. This is the shoe that every single Crip wears, right? Like, like this, like, and he could have broken it down, right? And he could have learned, and he could have been like, I'm learning, teach me, help me to be a better sneaker guy, right? But when Tim Walz opened that door and grabbed it right where it needed to be grabbed, right? And was like, oh, I gotta grab this handle here, and then I gotta reach over on the other side and lift the door a little, right? I owned a Buick Regal with a 308. I know what that's like, right? And I know it when I see it. That guy is the real deal, right? And I also know Kamala don't even know the name of a single car she has ever been driven in. Right? And she ain't filling up no cars with gas, and she ain't stopping to get milk on the way home. And so she don't know the price of gas, and she don't know the price of milk, and she cannot help us fix those things. But Tim Walz can, right? And right now, the biggest problem I have is if they put Tim Walz in, then I'm sitting hoping for an event that puts Tim Walz in as the president. I don't want to be in that situation. That's just ghoulish. That's ghoulish, in my humble opinion. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion on Tim Walz. What do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.